Hello, everybody. Welcome to our day before New Comic Day show. I'm Jason,
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Hopefully, most of you know that by now. I think we
Yes.
have a lot of return viewers at this point. I wouldn't call them fans, but if you guys want to call yourself fans,
We won't stop you.
yeah, we won't stop you. Anyway, every Tuesday after we're done bagging and boarding and getting all the new comics ready, we divide them up and we read through the ones that we think most people want to hear about, and we give sort of spoiler-free reviews. We'll tell you if there's a first appearance, major death. We won't give you all the details. We keep the fun parts up to the comic readers.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think it's a pretty medium week this week.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we've had, the past few weeks have been very big.
Very big, yeah.
It's nice to have kind of a medium-sized week, nothing too huge. No, like, giant number ones.
Yeah, not a lot of number ones, which I'm sure will feel good on your wallet. Because some of these weeks, it's like, am I seriously buying 10 new number ones?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you going to go over first?
First off, looking at our comics, there's like definitely a color scheme that matches the sky outside.
I see that.
Grays and blues and greens.
Yeah, it's stormy where we're at right now in Chattanooga.
So I was very excited about this issue of Joker. This is Joker number 5, and this is the one the solicitation talked about Joker's first night in Arkham. Now, what's funny about that is, like how this whole series has been, all the solicitation, all the talk is like, what's Joker doing? What about Joker? What about Joker? This series has more been a Jim Gordon story. Commissioner Gordon and this Sergeant Gordon, because this does take place during Joker's first night in Arkham. But it's more from the perspective of Gordon. And what's really cool about this, for one thing, the art is by Francisco Francavilla, who is just one of the best artists, especially for like crime noir stuff. I mean, it's beautiful. Check out Black Beetle his self-published noir book is really good. But this begins with Gordon kind of busting a crime, and he's stopped by one of the other cops. And the other cops is like, "Hey, just want to let you know that, that Joker guy, the ruling was insanity, so they're sending him to Arkham." And Gordon's like, "No, I know about Arkham. It's a terrible place." But this is like, he had just busted Joker for the first time. So this is all still very fresh. Arkham isn't the Arkham we quite know yet, but you can tell it still has that reputation. Mm. And so what you see through this is, as Gordon goes through his life, he's still married at this point. He's going to like couples counseling and stuff. But this looming fact that Joker is in Arkham, and he just knows where no one else thinks about it, that Joker, there's something wrong here. Like, this is someone you don't take lightly. I think that's really cool. This is definitely throwback. It doesn't say how many years ago, but this really builds up that relationship between Gordon and Joker that we see later on in the series. That we go, oh, Gordon always had this feeling about him. And you see in this how even Joker's kind of presence slowly eroded Gordon's life.
Even way back then.
And it was the fact that he was like the only one who knew how bad this guy was. And you get a lot of interesting things, like Gordon going to visit Arkham, seeing where he's like, I gotta check out the facility. They show him where they're going to be keeping Joker. He's like, that's not good enough. We need higher. And they're like, no, this guy's not going to give us any trouble. I won't give away the whole thing, but it is funny. Joker does break out at one point, but he just breaks out to go get a piece of pie.
Yep, I had a feeling.
Because it's something so mundane, but it's that thing. Joker's, you can tell, testing Gordon, being like, look, I just broke out.
Yep.
I didn't do anything, but I can do this. And he has some of those moments where Joker's like, do you have a family? Are you married? Do you have kids? Oh, tell me about your kids and stuff. Boy. And it's just, I mean, this is going to be a standalone issue people are going to be talking about for a while, because it is that classic creepy Joker getting inside your mind, all of that. So it's super cool. You can tell it's definitely kind of when you're in between story arcs or in between issue things. Like there's a lot of annuals coming out this week. This kind of has that feeling of like this could be an annual story, but still very key to the issue. Um, let's see. So it also has the Punchline backup story.
Right.
This is the new one with Sweeney Boo doing the art, which is really fun.
I've seen her do a lot of covers. I don't know if I've seen a lot of her interiors.
Yeah, so really cool, really fun, but highly, highly recommend this issue. Even if you're not caught up, even if you haven't been reading Joker and you've been thinking about it, this will be a issue to pick up that's going to kind of be almost like the Batman Elmer Fudd. You know, it's like it's part of this bigger thing, but you can read this one issue and it feels world building for those characters. A great one-shot story. I wouldn't be surprised if this got nominated for, you know, best single issue or something. So highly, highly recommend Joker #5. This series continues to just kill it. And we have some cool variant covers. This one definitely gives the feeling of what the book is like. So this is the Sean Phillips variant that definitely has the feeling of maybe a crime novel or a crime movie.
Yeah, I get a crime movie poster.
Yeah, it even has like the fun like sticker down here with the price on it. Like maybe it's a discount one or something. But so we have that one, and then we have the Kari Andrews Punchline, because of course they've been doing a Joker cover and then a Punchline cover for every issue. And then we have the 1 in 25 Federici variant. We're selling to our pull box customers for $30, but you've got Vengeance on there.
Looking buff.
Looking buff Vengeance.
Yeah. Okay, so I read Extreme Carnage Scream. This is the second part of the 8-part Extreme Carnage event book that is running through 8 different one-shots. So in this, Scream is one of the 5 symbiotes that came from the Life Foundation. I mean, this is way back from Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man, you know, back from ages ago. And the Life Foundation took Venom, and from Venom, they kind of, I guess they kind of birthed 5 new symbiotes. And Scream is one of those. So is Lasher and the other ones. So the Scream symbiote, they all have different powers. They all look different. The Scream symbiote melded with this girl, Andy Benton. Now, Andy Benton already had power. She has this Hellfire power, which it's very interesting that a symbiote that's hurt by fire would sort of meld with somebody whose power is you know, that very thing that hurts them. But their melding, which happened a little while back, it went really well because of that in a way. Like, I guess they pair up so well that even though her power's fire, it's okay.
Yeah.
She protects her own symbiote from the power that she has. So in this, Carnage comes to town to pay them a visit, and the question is, and I won't reveal it because it's too much, is he there to go after Andy? Is he there for the Scream symbiote, or is he there for both of them? And that's what you will discover when you read this issue. It also seems that Carnage has some sort of power over the Life Foundation symbiotes, which you'll see in this. So not necessarily over Andy, but over the symbiote itself. It's not revealed in this issue how he has this power. It is not revealed, you know, how Carnage is able to do what you'll see him do. But let's just say by the end of the issue, one of the 3 characters I've been talking about will not make it out very well. And Carnage's plan is still not revealed. I'll say that. You know, I read the first one, and I kind of told everyone it was a good issue, but I can't tell what Carnage is up to. By the end of this one, more is revealed, particularly how he's doing things, but what he's doing, I don't know. It's all in the wake of this absence of Null, though.
Hmm.
That's definitely something to this. It seems like there's some place or maybe even some power of Null that is still around that he's using. Because he even mentions Eddie Brock and how Eddie Brock does not know about this.
Mm.
So very interesting mystery. Some major stuff goes down in this issue, and as stated, there's something very bad happens to at least one of the main three characters.
So is this a continuation from the Alpha issue? Does it feel like this would be like an issue 2? Is it standalone? How well does it work?
It could be read as a standalone, but it's building up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not like right at the end of that one, this is happening. This is in a different area. So if you read number 1, you're going to get more from it, but it could be a standalone. I don't think all these will be. I think by 3 or 4, once you see what's going on, you'll have to have read the other ones. So
yeah, it's still interesting how they're doing it with they're all one shots, but they're connected and
well, by the end of this one, the part with Scream is at about an end.
Okay.
So I'm not saying complete end, but just
I'm wondering if each of the issues will kind of have that feel.
I think so. I do think so. Leaving the destruction in the wake sort of there, bubble up probably by the end. So, all right, we've got a few variants for this one. The first is this trading card variant with Scream on there. She's the symbiote with the fun hair and her coloring. And then
she does a lot with her hair.
She does. Here is the Nakayama variant. See, that's a great one where you can really just kind of see her. Because a lot of times in these panels, they'll just show pieces of the symbiote, or they'll just be twisted in a weird way. This is a real, just clear image of what Scream looks like as compared to, say, Venom or Carnage.
Yeah, that's like a cover an artist would look up for reference. Like, I just need to see what the character looks like.
And then here's the Scotty Young cover. I think somebody should make a jack-o'-lantern like this. Carve it and then add the hair somehow. That'd be pretty cool.
Cool. Well, next up, of course, is one of my favorite times of the week is when we get a new Star Wars book. And this is War of the Bounty Hunters number 2. So the big crossover event in the Star Wars universe. Kicked off with Alpha, we got the number 1, now we've got number 2. This is a really cool issue, and it's getting to the auction of Han Solo faster than I thought it would. So I kind of thought that would be like the end game, is we're getting to this big auction held by all the criminals, the Empire's there, Black Sun, all being put on by Crimson Dawn, which is helmed by Kira from Solo. That's not really a spoiler now. People know the character is back. She's the leader of Crimson Dawn, and she is kind of getting her final revenge on Han. We don't quite know why she's still so upset with Han, but she's selling them off at this auction. So, of course, when you get all the criminals together, fun times are to be had. The Hutts are there, of course. We know that Han ends up with Jabba, but it's fun to see them all there. Everyone giving everybody else the side eye, being like, what are they doing here? Oh, what are they doing here? Oh, we're a better criminal organization than they are. But of course, the Empire's there too, which is really interesting, with the Empire basically being like, should we be here? There's a lot of criminals here, and this doesn't look good on us to be around so many criminals. They might lump us in, even though it's fitting. But of course, Boba Fett is trying to infiltrate this place as well. He did not get an invitation because he has a bounty out on his head. But he finds a way to sneak in, and you'll have to read it to see, because it involves other bounty hunters, a lot of tricks, a lot of disguises. Really, really cool. But what I do like is, at this auction, he runs into Dr. Aphra and Santa Solo, or Santa Staros, who we'll see in a minute. They also had an issue come out this week that run very parallel. But I do like that Aphra is getting more than pretty much any of the other tie-ins. She's featured in this.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening there. I won't say there's any huge first appearances or craziness. There's a really cool ending to it that you know it's coming, but the implications of what's going to go down maybe in the next issue are really, really cool. I'm hoping that there's a fight between two characters that will be like a clash of the titans.
Duel of the big bads.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that is super cool. It's a really good issue. I mean, this crossover event, I've enjoyed every one of them. Let's see. I'll really quick talk about Dr. Aphra as well, because it does just run right alongside it. It even has like some of the same scenes, but if you're following Boba Fett in one, in Aphra's, you're seeing them come into the party. But you see that same moment where they meet up, they have the same conversation, you see the same big reveal at the end. But I try to say this without giving away what the ending is. But Aphra has a different reaction, and something that I feel like is a very character building moment where she might have some kind of post traumatic stress when she sees a certain character where it highly affects her. I think it's a very interesting thing that we haven't explored with a Star Wars character. I mean, if you come against someone huge and scary and bad, you see them again, it's going to affect you. And I think it's a really cool story building thing. And I still say Aphra is prime to make appearances in more than just comics. I feel like they're still really building up her character.
I haven't read it, but I'm thinking perhaps somebody from her very origin issues.
Maybe from an origin issue that even reflects the name. So we have the War of the Bounty Hunters. Of course, John Tyler Christopher variant, action figure variant with Bosk, who does appear in this, and it's a really fun issue. Some callbacks to him and Boba Fett from Clone Wars, where they actually knew each other and kind of trained together. This awesome, I love these. We got the Valence one last time. This is the headshot variant. And these headshot variants are awesome.
Yeah.
They're so sharp. They look so good in person. They're so bright.
Set against good background colors.
I know. It would just
good thing we don't have the
right
green
in.
screen on.
This is by Chemicoli. We have the action figure variant by Cassidy. Or, I mean, this is the trading card variant, where it looks like Dengar doesn't want to stay in the middle of his trading card. And then for Aphra, we have her headshot, which I feel like this is going to be a big one. We've already put a lot of these in pull boxes for people. This one of the coolest of the Lucasfilm 50th anniversary by Chris Sprouse. Yep, and I believe that's all the variants for that.
All right. So I read Detective Comics 1039. This issue sort of runs alongside, actually, it sort of comes before the Huntress one-shot. In fact, it had me wondering if there wasn't some production mix-up and if the Huntress one-shot should have come out first.
Yeah.
It's fine to read them in this order, because in the Huntress one shot, which, you know, this is not much of a spoiler, and, you know, that's already been out for at least a week, it is revealed that Huntress has been already affected by the vial virus, and that she was cured somehow. Well, in this issue, you actually get to see that happen. And so it's kind of weird when you're reading it. You're like, oh, she's getting infected. Well, I know she's going to be okay because I already read another issue where she's better now.
It kind of messes with the tension.
Correct. I mean, it's still a really good story, and it's interesting to see how it happens and to see how she gets cured. But if you've already read that Huntress one-shot, you will already know the way it ends up. You still don't know the hows, though, which get revealed in this. So this is what I call the Hugh Vial issue. That is the name of the villain they've been building towards. Now, how they ever let a guy with the last name Vial work for the city government and they didn't think he was a villain is beyond me. But, you know, this is comics. It's almost classic comic to name your villain something like that. And I don't think they're setting this guy up to be like a new major Batman baddie. I don't think he's going to be, the next Riddler or something.
It's like having someone in Arkham named Hugo Strange be a doctor. It's like,
there you go.
This
there
might be weird.
But what I do like about him is his power of having this virus has been really interesting. It's been neat seeing it unravel as far as what does it do to people. Does it let them control them? This issue clears up a lot of what it does. It's also really gruesome. It's almost very horrific, with Batman makes sense. Batman books have always been on the sideline of horror. I mean, Gotham itself. I mean, that's the name, Gothic. So right along with horror, but it really makes people gross, and the villain himself is very scary, straight out of a horror movie. So you will get a lot more about Hugh Vile in this. In fact, the B story, which is fairly short, it is just Vile by himself. It actually shows him arriving in Gotham, what his plan is, why he's going to do it. So that's pretty interesting. The A story, however, you still have Batman going up against Mr. Worth. So Mr. Worth is convinced that Batman and or Bruce Wayne, who he so believes are separate characters, totally believes are separate characters, he thinks that either one of them might be the cause for his daughter's death. And so him and Batman were fighting last issue. The fight continues into this issue, which is very cool because I've been waiting for that. They showed it on the cover all those issues ago, and now they finally got into it. So while that's happening, Huntress, with the help of Oracle, is tracking down Vile and trying to find him. And of course she does, as we know from the Huntress one shot, and we get to see how all that plays out. So that's generally what goes on in Detective Comics 1039. A solid issue, but you already have to be reading it. This is not an issue to jump into. It feels like we're 3/4 of the way through this tale. There might be one more, maybe two more issues to close up this arc. But it's been a fun ride.
I was about to say a very solid arc of Detective.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. So we have the variant by Lee Bermejo. Get that where everybody can see it well. Batman just standing there. Gotham in flames. He didn't do it. He's going to save them. He's going to save everyone.
Standing there toasting his buns.
Yep.
Next up, one that I don't have a whole lot to say on because if you did read issue 1, it would be the most confusing thing to just straight talk about this. But
I was going to say it must be Bunny Mask.
Bunny Mask number 2, one of my surprise hits of a few weeks ago when number 1 came out. I don't want to say I had no expectations for Bunny Mask number 1. I mean, it was very hard to, even looking at the covers, kind of suss out what this book is even about. But it follows, some characters who ended up in this cave, and there's this girl in there with this bunny mask, and she's very violent, but maybe she's like attacking bad people. Anyways, well, the cool part about issue 1 was there was a time jump to some of the characters now and how they're kind of coping from. It's almost like you had a horror movie and then you time jump to like, how do those people like years later deal with the horrors that happened in a horror movie with a slasher or whatever? Like, that would really affect your life going forward. And what happens when the people who was also involved in that was one of the other, people who was captured, you run into them again. Mm-hmm. And that kind of explores this, where our main character runs into B, B-E-E, the girl who's there, and it's like they can't spend enough time together. Like, it is like the ultimate therapy to meet up and talk. But the interesting thing about B is she also creates art of the bunny mask, which is the kind of horror slasher thing. So it's a really cool issue. You'll definitely want, if you read number 1, definitely check out number 2. The art's really cool. A lot of weird stuff happens. It's a very odd book, but for fans of supernatural slasher, but with actually a very deep storyline about like how stuff like that affects people, I really recommend picking up issue 2 of Bunny Mask. And I think some other printings of number 1 are now out or in the process of coming out, so you'll be able to catch up pretty easily.
Yeah, number 1 was a hit around here. We sold out of that pretty handily, and we had a decent bit of it.
Yeah, and people who read it came back and were like, "Oh, I want to add that. That was so different."
Yeah.
So we have the 1 in 15 make your own bunny mask variant. If you have a tiny head, you can make your own bunny mask.
You can go rob a bank with that on, get away with it, and then pay for surgery to fix your tiny head.
And we are selling that to our customers for $20.
All right, I read Aftershocks' new number 1, one of the few actual number 1s this week to an ongoing series, Beyond the Breach number 1. So check out the cover. There's a lot on that cover that gets unpacked in this issue. What is the breach? I will tell you straight out, you do not learn about the breach in this issue at all. What you do learn is you get to learn maybe some of the effects of what it is. So, when I read the title, I thought, okay, well, we're going to learn that this breach is there and see things crawling out of it and who knows what. No, instead, they thrust you forward into a lot of madness that just, it left me going, wow, I can't even imagine how crazy this breach is when we do get to it in issue 2 or 3 or whatever. So let me back up and tell you the premise without telling you everything. It is about this girl, the young girl you saw on the cover, and she has run away from her boyfriend, her family, because they've done some very mean things to her. So she has taken a trip all by herself, sort of like a dream trip. Like, you guys messed with me, so I'm taking your money and car, and I'm going on a vacation for myself. So she's going through sort of a redwood forest. In fact, at the end of the issue, you actually get to see her like diary entries of all the things she's going to do in her week vacation, which it doesn't seem like any of it's going to happen now. So she's going through this redwood forest, and all of a sudden she's overcome by this sensation, and she wakes up and she's in a car crash. All this stuff is just going on. I mean, it is all sudden. It goes from, oh, I'm going on this trip, these people have jilted me, to, oh, I'm awake, what happened? My car is in flames, there's other cars in flames, there's a monster chewing on some guy, there's a little kid trapped in a car yelling for his parents who are missing. I mean, this just has a lot of chaos and a lot of scariness right off the bat. She's gonna have to save this kid. There's even a monster that is more like a pet. It's the one on the cover that kind of ends up with her. And I thought, I had a lot of, when I look at a cover, I can't help but dream the story or what I think it's going to be. But this cute, cuddly thing she's with, I don't know if it's cute and cuddly, because all these monsters are terrible. And trust me, there is not one kind of monster in this. There's like a dozen weird monsters that range from, the small, cuddly kind to the really big, scary kind that can, get in your head. So a lot of this is them running from things, trying to save people. People do die in this, and us just learning how bad things have gotten in this forested area. But we do not know what the breach is. We don't see it yet. Comics only have 24 pages to tell their story. So I think they did pretty well to kind of say, this is the sort of stuff you're going to see in this book. Do you want to keep reading? Rather than, we're going to explain what this breach is, but because we did that, we don't get to show you how bonkers this book is. So I thought it was a pretty strong first issue. I kind of wish it started with a double issue.
I feel like we say that every week now with these number 1s. It's
yeah,
like, we need
but
more.
still very strong for just a first issue, without getting around to what the actual breach is. Also, I'll also say our main character, she's very filthy mouthed. And by that I mean, she's cursing right off the bat because she's angry about what these people have done to her. And I was like, and I mean, not just a little, like she has the creative cursing, like almost Negan style.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, well, I guess she's angry, that's why. Well, later in the book, even when she's not angry, she uses some of it. And it's like, oh, that's just how she speaks.
She's a pirate.
yeah. I mean, it's one way to have your character stand out at least. All right, we are also selling to our clients the 1 in 15 Shalvey variant for $20 while supplies last. I've never been to the Redwood Forest. I've always wanted to go. So I totally get that. That's where she went as one of her places.
Does it say where she started? Like, what state she was in?
They don't mention that.
When she goes into the woods, like post whatever happens, does it look like she's in a different area? Is it like, oh, now she's in a weird other world, or
No, it doesn't. She's still pretty much right where she was driving. So
sounds like it's gonna be interesting though.
yeah, it
I
seems
like the
like whatever
premise.
happened, she just happened to be near the epicenter of whatever this breach is.
Yeah,
And now she's just trying to survive.
yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah.
So next up, we have issue number 2 of Infinite Frontier. This is the book if you want, the spine of the DC universe. You want to know exactly like this is everything is going to branch off from this. This is where you're going to get your most like universe centric story. Joshua Williamson has made this like the thing you have to read. So I really like the first one. It is telling a like epic crisis story using characters you don't see a lot. And I really like that because some of my favorite characters are those B and C and sometimes D-list characters. And how do they deal with this?
And they're trying to stop crises before they happen for once.
Yeah, and that's what's really cool about this one is it has the thing where Director Chase, who's kind of been through all of this, her and Bones,
yeah.
Are trying to figure out like, hey, we just went through this thing where she even talks to Batman in this, and she's like, let me get this straight. We just went through a thing where this celestial god came and was going to destroy our universe, teamed up with an evil version of you called the Batman Who Laughs. What are you doing to prevent this from now on? And it's interesting because Superman basically, when she's talking to him, is like, we got this handled, don't worry about it. And it's suddenly becoming like the public are not okay with that. Just being like the superheroes, oh, we'll handle this. And it's like, yeah, but why is all this stuff also centered around you? Like, it's a version of you. Is there an evil version? She like asked Superman, is there an evil version of you? And of course we know there's a couple of them. But it's really cool that, I don't know, this kind of meta commentary on events and how does it affect everyone in them. So Director Chase, when she basically just hits a wall, when Superman and the Justice League won't tell her anything, she's like, I've got someone I can go to. I know someone who is very familiar with multiple realities and time and all of that. I'm not going to tell you who this character is because it is a character we have not seen. I don't even think in Rebirth they've really appeared.
Huh.
It's a character everyone will recognize, or if you're a DC fan, you'll recognize. But it is a character that you go, oh yeah, they're pretty key to this, and so they have very roundabout ways of finding out this information. If this superhero won't tell us, we've got one that we can go to. So that is super cool. But this book, just like the first one, is kind of broken up into parts. So you've got the Director Chase and Bones story about that. Then you have the team that Flash is kind of a part of now, where he's going through different universes, checking out, making sure everything in the new Omniverse is okay. Well, he's gone missing. He's not responding. If you read the first one, you kind of know where he ended up and who he ran into.
Right.
But turns out there was something else that happened where a mysterious, seems like a ship was flying through, like jumping through multiverses and breaking apart. And so pieces are falling off in all these different realities. And so you have Captain Carrot, and you have like the one that's like Iron Man, I forget what his name is. Machine Man or something like that. They're all investigating these pieces and learning that once again, I feel like DC loves their mysterious metals. They're like, we've never recognized this metal before. It's not nymph metal. It's not whatever. So there's that going on, which is really cool. And there's one kind of breach or whatever where some of this stuff has fallen, that they don't have someone in that universe to check it out. So President Superman and Flashpoint Batman go to investigate and run into another big character we've not seen in a while, super cool. An old Superman character, also a big character from Kingdom Come. So if people can figure out who that is, pretty cool. But I've this series is really cool. There's multiple parts to it. We've got this stuff with Roy Harper,
Right.
who, if you saw in issue 1, has a Black Lantern ring. What does that mean? He doesn't know what it means, and you find out a little bit more in this of all the pieces that it entails when it kind of shows him some of the key players in this. So, great series. I feel like this is going to keep getting bigger and bigger. I love the characters they're using in it. There is definitely also some nods to Tom King's run on Mr. Miracle. You see some stuff from that are familiar from that. Some stuff back from Infinite Frontier #0. But highly recommend this issue because you see some characters, some minor characters, probably a lot of fan favorite characters that haven't been seen in a while do make reappearances in this. I think that's kind of how every issue is going to be, bringing some cool characters back into it.
Does that have that DC ad we were talking about? DC has a really
Yeah.
cool ad right now where it's Director Bones, and you kind of see what's on his agenda of questions
Yeah.
that need answering, and it's all the different mysteries that are going on
Yeah.
in the DC universe right now. I really like that ad.
Yeah.
That's
It feels
so cool.
very when you see like in the ad all the stuff that he's questioning, it kind of touches on each of the books, and you go, oh, kind of makes all this stuff in a cool way.
I agree. It shows real intent, and it shows that the writers across the board are working together.
Yeah, because one of them's like, what is fear state? One of them is like, who's the Black Lantern? You can kind of look at it, each of them, and be like, oh, that's relating to this book.
Yeah.
And giving you the idea they're, like you said, they're really in communication, and it's all working together. So we have the variant, the connecting variant by Brian Hitch that we've got with Chase and Bones on the cover. Be cool to see all these put together. Yeah, another big book this week. It's hard to like talk about it and not give away stuff, but I think the reveals are so fun. It's like, y'all read it, and so you can see who some of these characters are.
All right, so I checked out Thor #15. This is the first of a new storyline that follows the Donald Blake storyline, which was a pretty big deal. Thor got locked away right up until the end. He came out, he beats down Donald Blake, he helps with the Null Crisis. They got him out just in time.
Yeah.
But he still has problems that Donny Cates has not forgotten about at all, and I hope your readers haven't as well. His hammer, there's problems with his hammer. Thor has not been able to lift it as easy. At the same time, other people who are totally unworthy, including, this already happened, including Loki, has been able to just pick his hammer up like it's nothing. So it gets back to that. This arc is called Revelations, and it is a 3-issue arc, and it looks like the crux of it is going to be Thor figuring out what's going on with the hammer. And what I'll say, I'll give my prediction rather than just my review. It doesn't, to me, my prediction is it's not going to just be, oh, he fixes the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's being set up where there may be just something that changes between him and the hammer for good. Like possibly he doesn't have it anymore, or it goes to somebody else, or I'm not saying that happens in this issue. What happens that leads me to wonder about this is Thor goes to Captain America and says, hey, I have to talk to you. He finally confides in somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I have this problem. It's a huge problem. And the hammer, it's no longer just heavy or other people picking it up. It starts doing its own things. And some of the things it starts doing is not good. You'll have to see what happens between it and Captain America. Well, Thor is telling Captain America this problem. And of course, Captain America, other than listening to him, doesn't really know how to help. But Thor mentions about what it's like now that he's king and how he thinks that is figuring into this. And also what it's like now that, he's always been immortal, but now that he's king, his immortality, he kind of, it changes his perspective on things. It's a really good conversation him and Captain America have. And it's neat because Captain America, while not immortal, does have things to say on that because he lost a large chunk of time. So they get to connect in a very interesting way. But by the end of the issue, I it just led to me to believe this isn't just going to be Thor finding a way to, flip a switch and the hammer's back to good. I think something big is getting set up
Yeah.
here. So that's the most I can say on that.
Everyone needs a Captain America to confide in. And what a great person to go to. You imagine that he is probably a great listener, very caring.
Yep. I mean, that's why he's the leader of the Avengers.
It's true.
They found him 4 issues in and was the leader ever since. They propelled him right to the top. Okay, so we are selling to our customers the 1 in 25 Klein variant for, I missed that price, for $35 while supplies last. Klein, he's just got like a contract to do these. He's been doing these for ages on the Donny Cates run.
Just one variant this week for?
Yeah.
Wow.
Unless we were sold out of the other. I
I
think that's it, though. I think it's just the incentive.
So, another big book to hit this week. Sinister War #1. This is the big event. I believe it's only 4 parts, though, for Amazing Spider-Man. It's kind of wrapping up. I think by the time the last issue of it comes out, we'll be getting close to the last issue of Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man. But you can tell this is a big culmination of a lot of the pieces that he set up throughout his entire run. In this, I love how it starts because I was a big fan of the Amazing Mary Jane series, which is the whole series focused on Mary Jane, where she went on to make a movie, only to discover that the director of the movie was Mysterio. But he had good intentions. He wanted to make a movie about himself to paint him in a better light. But she's like, okay, I'll agree to help you if you don't, turn supervillain on me or anything.
Right.
And he did great things like hire other supervillains to work on the set and stuff, help them reform. But that does come into play in this because it starts at the premiere of the movie they made, which I love. It's such they didn't forget about that. That series pretty much got killed by the pandemic.
Yeah.
But they didn't forget that story arc. And it's really cool where it comes back. And there's now kind of a new relationship between Mary Jane and Mysterio, who's still posing as this director of this movie. And so the event, of course, no event in the Marvel Universe. No one's ever, had an event go from start to finish and people, just cleaning up afterwards. No, it always gets interrupted halfway through by something. And, of course, it is the Sinister War, which is the 2 teams of supervillains are going after each other, and it basically messes up everything. So that's kind of how this book was solicited, was talked about, this Sinister War, these 2 teams. But what I think is actually going to be the bigger story, and it's not said, there's some alluding to, but I feel like that they are now addressing the One More Day storyline where Peter Parker made a deal with Mephisto to save his aunt that he lost his marriage to Mary Jane with a bunch of mind wipes and everything, which was not the biggest among fans. They did not love that.
Right.
And they've kind of been fighting their way back to being together. They've been together for most of this series. But there's some interesting stuff in here involving Mephisto and involving Doctor Strange. And I think it's really cool because it feels like a lot of the stuff, with Mephisto before, where he was in Las Vegas, he had his own, casino.
Yeah.
We're also seeing a lot of that stuff come into play with this. But in a moment, it seems Mysterio knows some truth about how the world used to be, and he's going to try and tell his kind of now friend Mary Jane what it is. I'm not sure what spurs him at this moment to tell her, or how he knew. I need to reread it to really see. But it's cool because it builds on that relationship they have where he really respects her now and everything. So some really cool stuff with this. The art is by Mark Bagley, so it's very classic Spider-Man. but I think this is going to, if you saw the teasers for Amazing Spider-Man issue 75, and we know the new creative team's coming on, they're going to be using Ben Reilly as the main protagonist, at least for a while. One of the teaser images has Mary Jane with her wedding ring on, and I just feel like all the signs are pointing towards we're going to finally reverse that event that happened. And maybe Spider-Man doesn't die at the end of Nick Spencer's run. Maybe he decides to retire because he's married and he wants to settle down. So it's really good. I've liked this run of Amazing Spider-Man, and it feels like it's wrapping up well. There's still going to be Amazing Spider-Man issues coming out alongside this that'll probably weave in and out of it. But yep, if you're reading Amazing Spider-Man, you'll definitely want to get this because it feels like this is the natural progression of reading. This isn't a side story. This is part of the main story. Some really cool variants for this. Of course, we have the handbook variant, this time with the female Electro, who's played quite a bit in kind of the earlier parts of this run.
Yep, she is from the Spencer run.
Yep. We have the Vincentini variant with Vulture. And, I mean, there is every villain you can think of pretty much in this. You could probably think of more, but all the big ones.
They're either fighting or they're at the movie premiere.
Yes. And a lot of cool stuff with Kindred in this as well. So we have this Bagley connecting where it is just all the villains there.
So many characters.
And a scene very similar to this happens in the issue, which is really cool. We have the Varegi with Doc Ock and his crazy super long arms now. We've got the new variant.
Flying with the birds.
Yeah, really nice one. And then we have the 1 in 25 Nakayama variant, which I always love when they've got all the heads going around the outside of the cover. That we're selling that for $20. We have the Gary Frank variant. This is a 1 in 50 that we're selling for only $25. Cool to see Gary Frank doing some Marvel stuff. He's been with DC so long with Jeff Johns, and now he's doing Geiger and doing a little bit of Marvel work. He did some old Spider-Man covers back in the day. And finally, we have the Farrier. I believe this was a 1 in 25.
Correct. Yes.
That we are selling for $15. So a lot of covers for Sinister War #1.
Okay, so I know this isn't issue #4, but this was actually my favorite read of the week.
Ooh.
All the books I read were good. This one I enjoyed the most. This is Batman the Detective #4. I believe what is this, a 6-part series, so we're pretty far into it. So if you haven't read 1 through 3, even though this is my favorite read of the week, this is not the one to jump in on. A lot has already gone down. So last issue, Bruce Wayne got arrested by Interpol because somebody nearly killed Henri Ducard, who is the gentleman who taught Batman, Bruce Wayne Batman, how to track anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And Ducard knows who Bruce Wayne's identity is. They got in a sort of a shouty match over different moral views. Ducard believes if somebody's bad, you can kill him.
Yeah.
Obviously, Batman does not agree with that. In fact, Batman's been trying to put him in jail forever for doing that. That's why they're not as close friends as they should be. So after they had a fight on a train car, Ducard gets attacked and almost killed. And because they saw Bruce Wayne with them, Interpol arrests them. So this issue starts out with him under arrest and being interrogated by Interpol. But of course, you learn that that was all part of Bruce Wayne's plan.
It always is.
See, this is so Batman of him, though, which is funny to say because he is Batman. But he's like, yeah, I let them arrest me because I want to know what they know. And so it's great. The questions they ask him, you can kind of get into Batman's perspective of, that question. Well, why would you ask me that unless you knew this? So he learns things by their questions, which is great. But it does not go to plan. In fact, things are not as they seem, and he is in extreme danger. I've rarely seen Batman in this kind of danger as Bruce Wayne. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was a page turner when you see the trap he is in and how close to death he gets this issue and how much he gets messed up and what he has to do to get out of it. Really, really well written. This is Tom Taylor, though, who writes some good stuff. This is so good. I can't wait to recommend it to people once it comes out in trade.
Yeah.
You know, because there are people who are just like, I'm already reading 5 Bat books. I didn't want to get that one. When this is done, this is a must read. This is just, I don't know, quintessential Batman in the way. It's somebody's take on it because the art, definitely, he's a big bruiser, Bruce Wayne guy. And the way he does his detective work, it's a little more severe. It's, I don't know, sometimes Batman's written a little nicer and a little meaner. He's a little meaner in this. A little older, a little more, I've got to be meaner because I'm not as young as I used to be. I really like that version of him. I think I said when I reviewed the first one, it reminded me a little of Dark Knight Returns. And I still say that.
So it's kind of an evergreen title. It seems like this would be one of those like, oh, you like Batman, you got to read this story.
I think so. I mean, there's still 2 more to go, but so far, yes, that is my opinion on it. You know, in the beginning, he's left Gotham because of Alfred's death and things like that, but they sum that up.
Yeah.
You know, you don't really have to have known that. It gets you into that time frame, and then it gives you a really cool mission. Squire is back in this issue, which is cool. I was wondering where she was last issue. It's like, why'd you introduce her if she's not going to be important? She is important in this one. Because Bruce Wayne, like I said, he's in dire straits. He needs any and all help. So yeah, I think she's 16-year-old. A 16-year-old who's smart is very helpful to him in this issue. So that's really cool. The last thing I'll leave you with is, what is the European Alliance of the Bat? I don't have the answer for that. It comes up in this, and you learn, of course, that Bruce Wayne has... he's got tricks up his sleeve. Ones that you've never heard of, I never heard of. I think we're going to learn what it is next issue. But I'll just say, there is something called the European Alliance of the Bat.
It's very, seems like he's taking a lot from Batman Incorporated.
For sure.
I mean, that's kind of where Knight and Squire got their start. I know there are some other, like, European Batmen, that I wonder if they're going to start pulling those back in. And
there's one image, and the image gives me an idea of what it is, but I think it's something new, I think.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, this issue was awesome. I mean, it's neat when you could read something, and you know it's Batman, so you know it's like, Batman can't just, like, die unless it's, like, super special thing, and then they'll bring him back. It's great when the writing's so good that you can still be scared for them.
Yeah.
You can be like, oh, man, how are they going to get out of this? I mean, we've seen it so many times, so it's great that Tom Taylor is able to do that. So if you're already reading it, you're going to love it. If you aren't reading it, maybe see if your shop has issues 1 through 3. Catch up. And we have this variant by Andy Kubert. Yeah, fun issue.
Talking about fun issues, Skybound X #2.
Look at that cover.
I mean... Very very Star Wars homage-y.
Yeah, the governor
with
skull and
this nice Cliff Rathburn cover. So this continues our story of Rick Grimes 2000. You can tell Kirkman is having a blast with this. I love Kirkman's humor, and it's funny. I feel like we haven't seen it as much as of late. Because a lot of the stuff he's been putting out, you know, Walking Dead, Outcast, Firepower, Oblivion Song. There's humor sprinkled in there, but if you ever go back to Kirkman's roots with like Battle Pope, Astounding Wolfman, I think that's one of the reasons I love Invincible so much. Was it had such a good sense of humor. It balanced the like very over the top violence with and death with a very witty, like no one's taking this too seriously. This is that turned up. So of course it is the Walking Dead universe, but in the last one Rick Grimes wakes up and realizes that the zombies were just a tool used by the aliens to kind of weed out people so it can be easier for them to invade because they need our water. And this is kind of a cavalcade of characters you recognize, but now in a very like futuristic, crazy version. But it's still the same Rick Grimes that you have learned to love from Walking Dead. Um, Rick comes face to face with one of the aliens, and really cool, way over the top. A major death of a Walking Dead character. I feel like that's going to be in like every issue of this, but a Walking Dead character does get eaten in this by an alien. Uh, very, very heartbreaking to see. But it's so over the top. It's like, okay, whatever. And then another character shows up from Walking Dead in their best kind of almost like Age of Apocalypse X-Men style garb with their big gun and their knives and everything. It is so much fun. There's so much humor. The aliens are even like smack talking. Ryan Otley's art, of course, is flawless. It is awesome. It's all the fun of an alien chewing somebody up. And it looks like the next issue is going to be just as good. I'm very sad that this is not going to be collected. Which, if people didn't know, these are not going to be collected.
You have to buy every issue and staple them
Staple
together.
them, yeah. And if you just want the Rick Grimes 2000, you're going to tear out those pages, just staple those together.
We'll make our own bound editions if any are left on the shelf.
So I love this crazy over the top through story. This issue also has a story from Stillwater, which is a great book if people aren't reading it. Also Birthright. But the other really big one in this is the premiere of a new character for a new, I think, graphic novel is how it's going to be released.
The new young adult stuff that Skybound's doing.
Called Everyday Hero Machine Boy. And it is really fun. So it's very much like an Astro Boy. It's set in this future where there's kind of, you see some of the residents of the city, and there's kind of a fish person, there's a guy with a dog head. It's kind of a very anime setting, and this seems like a very friendly little boy robot in kind of a vein of an Astro Boy. And in this adventure, the city has been taken over with a heat wave. And so everybody's suffering because the generator in the city has gone out. Well, he sees an opportunity to help. There's the generator on the fritz. But we also learn that he has a dark past where maybe he wasn't always the kind, friendly little robot. Maybe people are, if they recognize him, they'd be kind of scared of him. So it's a really cool story, really fun art, very all ages story, but not kiddie. You can tell there's going to be some cool narrative to this, some backstory of maybe a killer robot, maybe just a fun kid robot. You'll have to see. It does kind of tease when the trade for that's going to be coming out. And I like that each of these issues is some familiar, but also here's something new.
Right.
And I mean, so you can basically bet every issue of these is going to have a first appearance.
Yep. And again, it will not be collected.
It won't be collected. So this is your only chance to get these little one-off stories, especially if you're reading books like Stillwater or Birthright. You'll want to get these kind of supplemental stories that do reveal a lot. And the Walking Dead, Rick Grimes 2000 is just so much fun. I can't wait to see where this goes. We know Negan's coming into it with his laser bat.
Yep, the laser Lucille.
So we've got some variants for this, of course. So we have the Bresson variant, and each of the covers kind of reflects one of the stories on the inside. So the A cover, the Rathburn cover is for Rick Grimes. This is for Birthright. And then we have the Tree Vyong cover, and that is with Everyday Hero Machine Boy.
Yeah, if there's any new character in comics who is at all sort of anime looking or based, I grab them for my own personal spec collection. I mean, all you need to do is have a son, daughter, niece, or nephew who is under the age of 16 to know how absolutely insanely popular manga and anime is.
Yes.
At this point.
So you see a bunch of those fun characters in there. He has a really fun grandma that he goes and tells about his day to, and really fun. That's the art for the story. I really enjoyed it. I knew I'd enjoy the series, and I am. So we got the 1 in 10 for the Birthright cover, the black and white. We are selling for $15. We have the 1 in 10 Vyong. So if you're going to try to get those first appearances, this one, not a lot of people are going to have.
Right.
And it seems like a lot of stores are also not ordering enough to get some of these variants. Actually tweeted, Ryan Otley posted a thing about his first issue, the cover of it.
Yeah.
And he's like, who got it? And I was like, I got it, and the black and white. And he was like, oh, not a lot of people got those. So apparently these are hard to get.
You know, a lot of times when something's not an ongoing series, and when it's weekly, and when it's an anthology of stories, just shops don't order that. But, you know, we like to think we're smarter than the average bear / shop.
That's why people are watching us. They're like, that's where the smart people are.
I mean, Kirkman, he keeps the excitement in comics.
Yep.
That's what he does. Probably better than anybody else. So it's like, yeah, we don't have all the information. But that's because he wants to surprise us. He's not collecting a trade. Why? Because he wants to elevate the individual issues too. He wants to keep it fun to be a collector, and I really appreciate that.
And then, of course, we have the 1 in 25 Rathburn black and white sketch. We have for $25. You won't regret picking up this series, even for if you're just a Walking Dead fan or just want to try out the new story. I think you'll be happy with each of the stories in there, and maybe try out one of the stories for books you haven't read, because there's trades collected of all of those, individual ones, not the stories that are in it, but of the actual series. So really, really cool.
Okay, so the third series for Canto has begun. Each of the previous two were 5 issues. This one, I've not read if it's 5 issues. I'd assume it will be. I don't think this is just ongoing forever. So this is called Canto III Lionhearted. And I think the title makes a ton of sense. You know, so much of Canto has to do with them being mechanical and needing the heart. That was, you know, in the first series, he had to get the heart for the girl that he loved, the girl robot. So at this point, Canto himself is Lionhearted. In the last series, he got a weapon that is finally powerful enough that he might be able to defeat the Shrouded Man, who has been the big bad guy over everything since the beginning. But in this one, he's trying to connect with people who used to be the slavers who were over him and his brethren, because they've got to join forces if they're going to beat the Shrouded Man. What I can say about this first issue is it is very action-packed. I mean, this is one of these comics. It doesn't start out with lots of lore and lots of world building. They've done that. This starts out with a whole bunch of action and battle, and people flying through the air and death-defying things. Very exciting first issue, at least the first 3/4 of it. The last quarter of it gets a little bit more into, okay, now here's the plan, here's what they're doing. But I was very surprised how just fast this the beginning was and actiony. Not to say that there isn't talk as the battles are happening. There is. What I would say about it, however, is this is not for a good jump-on comic. It is not. You pretty much have to have read Canto 1 and 2. Otherwise, the characters are going to be unfamiliar. They have a page where they tell you their names, but
that's more of a refresher than
Correct.
an introduction.
Yes, I would not jump into the series on this one. I would go and see if you can find the original series, whether it's collected or not, to get into it. But if you like the first two, I think you're going to like the same quality writing, same very cool, unique world and characters. So, I guess the last thing I'll say is the Shrouded Man and his forces are still not to be taken lightly, and they prove it in this. In that beginning I was talking about, this action-packed beginning, they prove they are still not to be taken lightly. We also have this 1 in 10 Nolan variant that we are selling for $20.
Canto is so cool because it kind of defies a lot of things about comics where they created this little character, no history, no anything, with original. A #1, Canto #1. I think the design was so solid and the world was so interesting that first one blew up.
It doesn't remind me of much of anything. The closest thing I would say would be maybe like sort of a Wizard of Oz with a little extra, like a little hint of steampunk to it.
Yeah.
That's what the world reminds me of.
But I mean, now that they've got 3 series, multiple mini-series, I mean, they've really carved out themselves like a very unique space where, I mean, you're going to have some big Canto fans going to cons and everything that are like, it's going to, I mean, it already has, but it's going to keep building up this like core, really strong fan base. So next up is one of the few annuals that came out this week. They've been spreading them out over a couple weeks now, and this is Flash Annual. They used to be like Flash Annual number 14 or whatever. Now they're just giving it a year, and I think that's okay.
I'm fine with that.
Flash Annual 2021. And I would say this one is very important if you're reading Flash. We'll say if a annual, like, we'll recommend it if it's good, but, sometimes they don't really matter to the overall story. No, this one ends the current Flash story arc. So this isn't, like you said with some of the other ones, not a great jumping on point, but one that you don't want to miss if you are reading it. Because we've had Wally West bouncing through time into different bodies of different speedsters. It has been such a good run of Flash. I'm very sad to see that story arc come to a close because it's just been very unique. Every issue, you're like, oh, where is he this time?
That Legion of Doom.
Yeah, it's just, it's so fun. The Velociraptor with super speed. Just great stuff. This, which was teased in the end of the previous issue, brings Flash to Sanctuary.
Right.
Which, if you read Heroes in Crisis or know about it, is where Wally West killed a lot of people involuntary, but it was a very like heavy emotional story. Because this is basically where a place where heroes go to decompress after all of the crazy fighting they've done, and if they had to kill somebody, if they had to do something, they see horrific things happen, they go here, and it's a place that they can decompress and talk to somebody. And Wally goes back there right at the moment where he has kind of an outburst and kills a lot of people. Very interesting because time is kind of frozen in that moment, and he is able to talk to Roy Harper, which I think is very big because, I mean, out of all the deaths in Heroes in Crisis, Roy Harper's was one of the biggest because, they were friends, they were on the Teen Titans together, and we get a great moment where Wally gets to talk to Roy and kind of explain what's going on. I don't want to say they're retconning some of the stuff that happens in Heroes in Crisis, but I think it does soften it a little bit because it was very jarring when it happened, what happened in that series. But also a big Flash villain shows up in this that we haven't seen in quite a while. It's not Reverse Flash, because it seems like it's always Reverse Flash. It's not Gorilla Grodd. It's another character that I was pretty surprised to see. And you'll have to just read to find out what happens. But I will say this does kind of wrap up that storyline and teases the next big storyline. Also, you kind of see the interaction between Barry and Wally, where Barry's going off to what's going on in Infinite Frontier, where he's running through all the multiverses. You see that moment as well. So really cool issue. A must read if you are reading Flash. and I love this variant cover. This is the Brett Booth variant cover with all the different flashes on it. Of course, not all of them, but a good number of them.
Okay, so Way of X number 4. This is a wild series. After I finished reading it, that's what I said to Andy. I was like, one of my notes is, this is just wild. Cy Spurrier, he likes to draw from a lot of characters that were just, they're X-Men characters, but they're sort of sideline characters.
Yeah.
And that adds a different degree of fun. I think it's the sort of thing some people really like, ooh, you have this character I barely know about. That's neat, because now I don't know how they're going to act, which way they're going to jump. But I think if people just want to have X characters they know well, it may be a little bit more of a barrier to entry. Luckily, it's all held together by Nightcrawler, a well-known, beloved X-Men character who I think is long overdue to be the leader of his own book, and this is the right one for him. So this begins on, what is it, Araco.
Yeah.
I haven't said it out loud. I haven't said it out loud yet. It begins on Araco, which of course is Mars that has been newly colonized. But this doesn't start out where that colony is. This is the middle of nowhere. This is after the Gala stuff. Nightcrawler is trying to figure out what is corrupting the society of the mutants. I mean, there's definitely something there that has been revealed. There's no more of a mystery that it's happening. And we even kind of know who might be doing it. I'm not going to say, just in case people didn't read last issue. And also, I could still be wrong. It's still just sort of theorized, but heavily. Because Legion thinks he knows who it is. And it's an Omega-level mutant. So Nightcrawler is trying to figure that out and save their society from its degradation. But what happens when... Or, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So... he's been going into the laws of Krakoa. There's those big couple of laws they have. In each issue, he is testing them to see how well they hold up, because he's trying to design a moral system. And everybody keeps making fun of him, going, you're trying to make a religion. And he's like, it's not a religion. We just need some rules that make sense to hold our morality together. And I mean, that's true of all cultures. So the one he's looking into, this one, is the rule of kill no man. So that is a mutant rule. They do not kill non-mutants. And if you do, then you're in trouble. It's a big no-no. So as Nightcrawler's trying to investigate this, somebody puts him in a terrible situation. It's Fabian Cortez. Fabian Cortez sets up this moral conundrum that you'll have to read. This is probably the best part of the issue, where Nightcrawler will either have to kill someone, allow a bunch of people to get killed, or commit suicide. Those are his choices in this conundrum. And, it's pretty interesting. And so he, in a way, Cortez is trying to call him out. I'm not saying he's trying to do something good here. He is not a good guy in this. But in a way, he is trying to call out Nightcrawler as far as, what will you do, Mr. Morality? As you try to decide if the kill no man thing is good, what will you pick? So it's pretty interesting. That does get resolved. It's not a cliffhanger. By the end of this issue, you'll see how that gets resolved. Beyond that, there's a lot of other things that happen in this issue that I don't have time to go into, and you'd have to kind of know the characters. I mean, some of these mutants are so obscure, I had to look one or two of them up to go, okay, what are their powers again? But in doing that, I had a good read. But I'm not going to explain all of that right now. So that's the crux of what this Way of X number 4 was about. And I don't believe there is a variant. If there is, we were already sold out. So I think it was just this, and then the incentive, which we don't have up for sale today.
So next up is Aliens Aftermath. So this is really cool. I'm glad they're expanding on their Aliens line. They've had the main one. They were going to do a Predator one. That one ran into some legal issues, unfortunately. But this is cool because this is a one-shot that explores the aftermath of Aliens and the base in Aliens, Hadley's Hope. And so it's really cool because it starts with this, which is funny because this is also a theme in the main Aliens book. These kind of anti-Wayland Yutani, um, not extremists, but they're the kind of activists who know that there's more going on with that company than, and rightly so, because that company has pretty much caused all of the alien problems ever. Because
let's harness these aliens and we'll make lots of money.
Yeah, it's always, let's sneak off here and we're gonna say it's one thing, but actually you're supposed to be stealing an embryo or something. Yep. Well, in this one, they know that something happened there, but they also know that all the files, all the everything has been wiped out. So no one really knows even where the station is. But of course, they end up finding it. And this is interesting because being a kind of follow-up to Aliens, I expected this to be like Space Marines versus 100 aliens. And it's not. This is definitely more of a exploration of the facility, what happened, some stories about the characters involved, a lot about like Wayland and what it would, how powerful it is and what it can do. But the kind of big thing is you see on the cover this white glowy alien. I will say that is in this. Very interesting new addition to the alien species bestiary. So you'll have to read it to find out more about it. I don't want to give away too much. Even if there's is anything to give away, it's kind of, a lot of it's left up to your interpretation of maybe why this one is as it is.
He's more collectible.
Exactly, yeah. He's like a 1 in 25 blind bag or something. But of course, this also has a twist ending that I thought was really cool, that I didn't see coming, and kind of your classic alien moments, or one of those moments of that thing looks dead, but then it winks at you. You know, not exactly that, but one of those moments it's like, to be continued. I don't know if they'll go back to this version of the story or this time frame or whatever. I would like to see this alien show up again because it's really cool. I just seeing it on the page and how it's like glowy and stuff.
And I think when we went over this for Comics from the Future, I think it was you mentioned that the original alien design was like a glowy alien.
It was more clear,
okay.
more kind of like an albino type alien. So yeah, I feel like this is definitely a big nod to that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
So really cool issue. I really liked it. I like the one shot. I hope they keep doing one shots. I would love to see, you know, different time frames, everything. I always thought it would be cool of like, you know, tell us a one-shot story of aliens. The aliens attack during like ancient Egypt. What's going on there? You know, like these characters are such a cool thing of like drop them into a situation and see what happens. That's kind of how this is like, you know, these freedom fighter type things. Oh, there's an alien. What's going to happen? So
as much as everybody is, and I am too, excited, you know, when Marvel picked up the alien property, it's like, oh, we can have the aliens go up against Spider-Man. Yeah. You know, we had the cover with Incredible Hulk fighting an alien. I'm excited to have Ripley go up against villains. I want to see her in the mech suit, and she's wresting the Infinity Gauntlet off of Thanos' hand.
Yeah, or installs it on the hands of the clampers or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched the alien movies since I was a kid. Ripley was always one of my favorite heroes or heroines.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen aliens 100 times, but there's a thing that it's in this that's kind of a MacGuffin, you know, an item or a thing that's a instigator as such. That I'll have to go back and watch the movie and see if this is nodded to, if there's more behind it, because I kind of have a feeling there is, and my time frames are a little mixed up of you know, when this takes place as opposed to that, but a lot going on in this issue. Really cool. Love aliens. They do a great job with it. This one's by Benjamin Percy, who's a great writer, worked on a lot of other stuff, but first thing he's written for Aliens, and I think it's a really, really standout single issue. There is a variant for it, a Ron Lim variant, and we are already out of it. So,
Okay, so the latest book from Bad Idea. This is The Lot. This is a 3-issue series, and of course, this is issue number 1. This is by Margaret Bennett, and the art in the book has this near photorealistic quality to parts of it, like the background or all the people in the background will be that way. Sometimes the foreground characters. The beginning is creepy. The beginning of this, because this is a horror story. The beginning of this is in 1971, so it's 50 years ago, and the art to it and what's happening in it is so unsettling. I was reading it while I was eating, and I felt a little sick. So you know a work has something to it where it can actually, instill it in you. But it starts in 1971 with these people. It looks like they're kind of in a movie. You're just getting like panel by panel of what's happening to them, and they're just kind of being torn asunder, but not in like a explosion way. Almost like a controlled, perfectly slit into slices sort of way. And that's one of them. And one of them, their eye is caving in, and why aren't they screaming? What are they doing? I mean, there's no dialogue between them. There's just dialogue from off panel. It sounds like it's a director. Okay, so you start off with that. A lot of panels of that too. Really creepy. So then it's 50 years later.
wow.
It's 2021, and we get our main protagonist who is on the cover. She is a woman who has clawed her way up through the industry. And she's had a lot of trouble doing it. You could tell that she was an actress and just hated it, and has decided, to go the other way. And she has become a CEO of her own division of a studio. So right away, she discovers that there's this whole movie lot that hasn't been touched in 50 years.
What if it's related?
She doesn't know why. Yeah, she's like, I can't believe it. Like, why is this whole movie lot not used? I can save us tons of money, start filming there. It's great. This is really going to help my career. And so they go to the lot. She unlocks it. They go in, and guess what? Terrible stuff starts happening. And I don't mean to the level at the beginning yet. Yeah. This is just ramping up. Something really bad happens to one person. But she does get the history from one of the older executives as to what's happened. And yes, she has unleashed holy hell by going into this lot, and according to that guy, they're all doomed. And so that's a lot of what the first issue is about. Plenty more goes on in it, but that's your summary review. So if you like that sort of horror, sort of reminded me, what's the horror one that Garth Ennis has done? I cannot think of the title of it right now, but yeah, just that really unsettling, sick horror. That's what I would say about it. It has a variant, or I'm sorry, a B story, as all Bad Idea things happen. There's always a surprise,
kind of a surprise one.
A surprise backup story called Reverse Art Thief.
I skimmed through that. I love the concept.
Yeah, so and this won't ruin your reading of it. It's like, I got to tell you what this is, otherwise you might not want to pick it up. But it has to do with somebody who is a burglar who steals stolen art and returns it to the people it belongs to. And you might say, well, how often is that? Think World War II. Yeah. That's all I'll say. I mean, there's so many things were stolen during wars. So that's the backup story, which it's a neat idea.
Yeah. So is it supernatural?
Yes.
Okay. So that's where the horror comes from, is supernatural.
Yeah, the things that happen in it, there's no way that it's a guy in a rubber mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very supernatural.
What do you think of that? That is that Aftershock?
A walk
through hell.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is what it reminds me of, and I don't know why I've read that. Just so many books swimming through my head after we read all these, but it reminded me a bit of a walk through hell.
Okay.
So for fans of that.
Cool. Okay, next up, let me make sure I got my order in correctly. Yep. This is really cool. This is Batman Urban Legends number 5. 5, yes. This one surprised me. I've been enjoying the series a lot. You've got, of course, your kind of main story that's the Red Hood story. which we do know there's a new book coming out, Task Force X, that is going to have Red Hood as like the leader of a team. Not sure if this is leading up to that, but in it, we were introduced to that new character Cheer in the previous issue. You find out a lot more about him, which super creepy character. Also weird to see him and like Mr. Freeze teamed up. They're not like compatible abilities or anything, but that's been really good. But the main ones I wanted to hit on where there is a Batgirl story in here, which is Oracle, and then she has Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain as her Batgirls. There is it's not a first appearance because her first appearance was back in what do we say?
Batgirl number 50.
Batgirl number 50. We got the first appearance of Ryan Wilder.
Correct.
The new Batwoman from the CW. In this, they are still. Well, they don't call her Batgirl in this, but she's referred to, I think, in all the extra stuff as a Batgirl. And we are seeing the reintroduction of her into main story, which is really exciting. I have to think they're leading up to maybe like a Oracle and the Batgirls or something series where we now have kind of a team of Batgirls headed by Oracle. So another story in this, it's funny because like none of these are first appearances, but they're key appearances. The last story we have in here is Grifter. We've been having the Grifter story since the first issue, and we've all been asking the question, what about the other ones? You know, he comes from a long line of Wildstorm, Jim Lee created characters that were on a certain team, and people have been wondering, you know, where's the team? We know that like Zealot is going to be showing up in an issue coming up. We've gotten hints here and there. Well, there's a definite confirmation to some of those questions and a promise that they will return soon. So, really cool issue. If you've been reading it, this is going to be very satisfying to see a lot of this stuff play out. And I'm guessing expect some announcements about a new title.
You showed me. So, you know, it seems that a team is jumping into the DC universe.
Yes.
That's what we can say.
I'm excited about it, too. It's for all those 90s fans, you're going to be real happy about it. But we've got a couple of really nice variant covers. This one I love because Stephanie Brown is one of my favorite characters. This is the Mimi Yoon variant with Stephanie and Cassandra Cain. And then we have the Tyler Kirkham variant with the Red Hood, which I think there may be one issue left of the Red Hood story. I think the Grifter one may be over. So it'll be interesting to see what are kind of the new stories coming in that are going to fill in those spaces.
All right, it is the final issue of HaHa. HaHa number 6 comes out tomorrow. And if you're looking something to darken your day, then you got to pick this one up. This is as dark a book as I've read in any of the HaHa or any of the Ice Cream Man stuff. So if that's the sort of, you want a tale to bring a tear to your eye or make you feel bad about life.
I've just been feeling too good. I need something to level me out.
I mean, that's what I call it HaHa. I mean, we're talking dark irony here. So this follows a character. Each one follows a clown. This one follows Happy Hank, the very happy clown, whose life is anything other than what his name implies, and always has been. He describes himself as one of the most unlucky people to have ever lived. And I'll tell you, like, nothing goes well for him. In fact, it starts off so dark, off the bat, you already know things aren't going to go well. And it gets even worse than you expect. What I'll say about this issue is the world goes mad as this clown who's always been depressed starts realizing his only way out. And that's the best way I can put it. Otherwise, you know, what I have to say, it's not R-rated. It's just like not everybody wants to hear about dark stuff.
Yeah.
So that's as far as I'll go with that. This is the issue that in interviews the writer said was going to link in with Ice Cream Man. So here's the part where I'll tell you how it does or if it does. Does it link in? Yes, but it's more like nods to it. You know, like, oh, there's an ice cream truck over here. Oh, a guy has a patch on his arm that says ICM.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, there's that skull thing I saw in that one issue of Ice Cream Man. So there's a lot of nods, but don't expect more than that. It's not like the Ice Cream Man's just showing up going, haha, it was me all along. And
I'm a clown too.
yeah, correct. So a lot of very cool nods to it. Definitely sort of showing, yeah, this is in the same universe. But I just want everybody to know that, you know, in case you're deciding if you want to buy one copy or 10 copies.
Yeah.
It is a good capstone issue, but don't leave it around for your friends to find on your coffee table and think, oh, I want a chuckle out of this. They're not going to have a chuckle out of that.
They're gonna have a good old cry or something.
Yeah, that's what it's going to do. But on the other hand, if you want to ruin their day, give it to somebody real happy who does not have a lot of depth. Okay, the last thing I want to say is there's a phrase in this used a few times, 3 different times. The phrase is cuckoo karate. I kind of get the way it's being used, the context in this, but I've never heard that expression. Does it come from a song, maybe lyrics? I tried to look into it. I really did. I can't figure it out. So if any of you out there know where this comes from, if it's not an original expression, it's cuckoo karate.
I hope that's not something horrible. People are like, I can't believe you said that online.
Let me know in the comments if any of you know what in the world it means outside of this issue, or if it was just made by the writer. So, and again, we do not have any of the variant left.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, and I believe there's 2 variants for it as well.
Yeah,
so.
Last issue, you know how it is. Like, we reduced numbers down to the, you know, we don't want 1 million of them just sitting in our back issues forever. So.
Next, let's see. We have, which one did I just do? Okay. Future State Gotham. This is number 3. So this was if you've picked up any of the issues of Future State Gotham, it was very surprising when it first came out. This is a black and white, almost manga Batman book set in the future state.
Very intentionally timeline. Black and white.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It plays to it.
You know, I think that's, to me, that's like the big appealing thing about it. Some people don't like black and white comics. I feel like this is really refreshing when you see it. It's like, okay, you're showing me something new. So story-wise, we're just continuing on. If you've been reading it, you know that Red Hood is now like Peacekeeper Red. But listening to an interview with Joshua Williamson about this, it's cool because he's like, I want to see every character in this at some point. I want to see what the future state version of every character is. And that continues to be true. So a character that was very absent from future state, we all kind of wondered about, where are they? I will say Punchline, future state Punchline is in this. And I think that's another thing that just cements her as she's not going anywhere.
Right.
You know, now this is another writer using her. She's just as twisted and sadistic as ever. The spots on her cheeks weren't made with makeup. They're made with leftover people. But really cool to see her show up. Some other characters show up in this. So if you're getting everything Punchline, if you're excited about Punchline showing up and things, and this definitely teases there may be a showdown, a rematch between Punchline and Harley. If you see the variant cover, I think for the next issue, there's 2 covers. One's Harley, one's Punchline. So really, really cool. The other thing is, and I don't believe, unless I am just completely mind wiped, this has a backup story that is Batman Black and White. Just like how the series Batman Black and White had a bunch of short stories, this has a new black and white short story that's in the kind of Batman Black and White style. It's a different writer, different artist, and everything. So I'm wondering if they're going to start putting those in the end of each of these issues, so you get extra cool bonuses. It doesn't take place during future state timeline. It's like classic Batman. Harley's in it. So really cool, extra little thing you get if you're picking up Future State Gotham. And of course, we had to talk about this because this is one of the coolest variants from one of the hottest artists right now. This is the Rose Besh variant.
Yes.
I mean, seeing this in person, it just glows. Of course, I have to show it off too because Stephanie Brown's on this cover as well. But I mean, we're gonna sell out of this cover. Like when you see this in person,
a
like
lot of pre-orders on
it just
cover.
looks so good. Very happy with this, and I'm really happy this is an incentive cover either. Everybody can get this if your store has it.
Okay, so I just have some to show off quickly because they are second prints. We try to educate, make sure you know all the ones that are out that you might miss out on otherwise. So Web of Spider-Man, this is the second print. That comes out tomorrow. The first print sold out instantly. It had some first appearances in it that people were expecting. It was very under-ordered. We even ordered quite a bit of it, but we had no pre-orders for it.
Yeah.
So, just sometimes that's just how it goes down. But the second print is out tomorrow for everybody who's looking for it. So you might want to call ahead to your store because they probably didn't order a ton of it to secure your copy. If you're with us and you already told us, you're going to get it.
Yeah. Real quick, ones to talk about. Action Comics also had an annual. Speaking of Future State, this revisits the House of L timeline where you kind of see all the descendants of Superman and Jonathan Kent as they're now kind of almost a peacekeeping force across the galaxy. And you see the character in the background with the glowing eye. If you think hard enough, you can figure out who that is, but it's an old friend / enemy of Superman makes their reappearance in a really cool way. We see the Phantom Zone. There's a wedding that is facilitated by Supergirl, who's now Superwoman. She's got that very peaceful planet. So it's really cool to see this go back to that timeline that we only got a one-shot for, and it was so interesting with all these new characters, and we see them kind of fleshed out in this one. So we have that. It's got this really nice variant. This one is by DeLandro. And the other one I wanted to mention real fast is Wonder Woman. This is issue number 775. She's still kind of going through that sphere of the gods.
Yeah.
And she is in the graveyard of the gods as of the last issue. I wanted to mention this one because there are some potential new characters in this one that are very cool styles. We have one that I don't know if they name, but it's a blind character, hooded character that puts the names on the headstones in the graveyard of the gods. Really cool. And there's also a new character, it even gets kind of a little title font and everything, called the Keeper of the Grounds. That looks like they're going to be in it for a little while. But very cool designs. You always got to keep an eye out when they put design thought out there for a character. They've got plans. Yeah.
Yeah, Andy showed me those characters, and at first I thought the first one might be Destiny, the Endless from the Sandman, but I will say that upon further inspection, I do not think that. For one, he didn't have the big book chained to him, and Destiny doesn't have his eyes sewn shut.
Yeah, but it definitely gives you kind of that Sandman vibe.
Yes. Yep.
We also have this beautiful Becky Cloonan variant, where you might even see one of the new characters in the corner.
All right, for you Keanu fans, which I think that is many of us, BRZRKR #1 5th print releases tomorrow. So if you're trying to get all those printings, if you're trying to get those later printings that you know will be more rare before the movie, the animated show, just want to let you know to look for that in your local store.
Another big one that I think a lot of people are going to want to get, Nice House on the Lake #1 2nd printing. So, Nice House on the Lake, definitely don't have any more copies of #1 here. Sold completely out. People loved it. Of course, we told you on this show and on Comics from the Future, we knew that it's James Tynion doing a horror thing. This is going to be big. All you got to do is look at Something is Killing the Children and know this is going to be hot. I really like this second printing. It's got the little torn out corner that you see the speech bubble. It's almost like you're seeing the picture. I even checked to make sure that speech bubble was there when you open it. It is. But if you're collecting all the printings, this one's going to be probably a little bit harder to get unless your store really ordered up on it. But, sometimes the other printings hold a lot of value.
All right, another book. I didn't get a chance to read this one, but I want to make everybody aware that it's out tomorrow. It's Tales Told in Technicolor, a new horror book from Black Caravan. This is the this is the VHS secret variant.
And Tales Told in Techno Horror.
Oh, yeah. I said the wrong thing. Tales Told in Techno Horror by Black Caravan. This is the secret VHS variant that we're selling to our customers for $30. I read everything horror, but there was only so many books I could read before the show today, so I did not get to this one yet. But if you like horror like me, just want to make sure you know that this one is out tomorrow, and they're not all $30 secret variants. There's an A cover to it, so look for that. Do you have any others?
Nope, I am fresh out.
I guess I'll show one or two others. So Captain Harlock #2 comes out tomorrow. This is the 1 in 10 Andolfo variant that we're selling for $25. And lastly, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers #9 is out tomorrow. This is the 1 per store Monty's variant that we're selling for $15. And here is the 1 in 10 Kiona's Virgin variant for $25. That almost looks like a backdrop. They take your picture in front and back in like the 90s, when they didn't have the laser one.
Yeah.
They had updated a little bit. So, all right, well, that is our show for today. We hope we have done our job in reading these comics and disseminating to you what they're about, what's important about them, I guess who would like each one, if it's your style, if it's not your style. We try to be very comics positive on this station, and like we're on TV.
Old-timey radio.
We try to be very comics positive, and by that I mean there is somebody for every sort of comic. It's just letting you know what the style is, what the writing's like, so you can find the one that you like or ones you like, because Lord knows you probably don't have enough money to read them all.
Yeah, that's my whole trick. Is I got a job here just so I could read them. It's a long con.
Worked.
It's a long con, but now I'm really paying for it when I got this stack this high.
And we also like to show all the variants that we can as well, because a lot of times, if you go to the store and you don't know that there's a variant you want more than the A cover, it's gone. Somebody else has grabbed it before you can get to it. So that is our attempt on the show, is to tell you about these comics. That's the hardest thing with comics is knowing what's going on in them, knowing what's happening before they're sold out.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, we will be back on Friday with our other show, Comics from the Future, where we will show you all the covers for all the comics that are open order. A lot of them will won't even be available to see until that very day. We put the show together that day. So until then, this is us signing off.